Adolf Hitler is a name synonymous with immense political power and horrific atrocities, yet before his rise in the political arena there was another Hitler, a young man with aspirations far removed from global domination. This was Hitler, the aspiring artist, a figure who dreamed of gracing the halls of Vienna's prestigious Academy of Fine Arts. His passion for painting and architecture was, for a time, the central focus of his youth. The young Hitler showed an early inclination towards artistic pursuits. He was reportedly more interested in drawing and reading than in his formal school subjects. While his academic performance was generally mediocre, his interest in art seemed to offer a potential path, a way to distinguish himself. He found solace and a sense of purpose in sketching and painting, primarily buildings and landscapes. This artistic leaning was not particularly encouraged by his stern and practical father, Adolf Hitler, who envisioned a more stable career in the civil service for his son. The clash between paternal expectation and youthful artistic desire would become a recurring theme in Hitler's early narrative. He admired the grandeur of the Opera House and other significant buildings, seeing in them a permanence and beauty he wished to emulate in his own work. This fascination with monumental architecture would later manifest in his grandiose building plans for Nazi Germany. The intensity of his desire to become a recognized artist was significant. The young man who dreamed of creating art would eventually turn to the creation of a destructive ideology. Adolf Hitler's childhood and teenage years were marked by a distinct lack of academic enthusiasm, except in subjects that appealed to his artistic sensibilities. Art, however, was his true passion. His father, Alois, was a customs official, a man of authoritarian temperament who had little patience for his son's artistic daydreams. Alois Hitler Sr. wanted Adolf to follow in his footsteps and secure a respectable position within the Habsburg civil service. This parental pressure created considerable tension within the family, particularly between father and son. Young Adolf found an escape from these pressures and the perceived drudgery of school life in his sketchbooks. The role of art in Hitler's early life was multifaceted. It was a source of pleasure, a means of self-expression, and increasingly, a symbol of his rebellion against his father's wishes. He later wrote in about these early conflicts, portraying himself as a misunderstood artistic soul pitted against a domineering father. While this account is undoubtedly self-serving, there is evidence that his artistic inclinations were genuine. His mother, Clara Hitler, was more indulgent of her son's artistic ambitions. She allowed him to drop out of the Realschule in Linz in 1905, ostensibly due to illness, but also because of his poor academic record and his unwavering desire to pursue art. For 2 years, from 1905 to 1907, Hitler lived a relatively aimless life in Linz, supported by his mother. He spent his time reading, drawing, painting, and dreaming of becoming a great artist, perhaps an architect. He even designed elaborate plans for the rebuilding of Linz. This period was formative in cementing his self-image as an artist. His mother's declining health, however, cast a shadow over these dreams. In 1907, with some financial backing from his mother and an inheritance from his father, the 18-year-old Adolf Hitler moved to Vienna. His primary goal was to gain admission to the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts. Vienna at the turn of the century was a vibrant, multicultural metropolis, a center of artistic and intellectual ferment. For an aspiring artist from provincial Linz, Vienna must have seemed like the gateway to success and recognition. Hitler arrived with a portfolio of drawings, hopeful that his talent would be evident to the Academy's examiners. He was confident, perhaps overly so, in his artistic abilities. His initial impressions of Vienna were likely a mixture of awe and intimidation. The grandeur of the Ringstrasse buildings, the bustling cafes, and the sheer scale of the city were a world away from Linz. He envisioned himself becoming part of this illustrious artistic scene. His application to the Academy was a serious step, the culmination of years of dreaming. He prepared for the entrance examination, which involved submitting a portfolio of his work and then, if selected, undertaking drawing tests. The competition was fierce. Many talented young men and women from across the Austro-Hungarian Empire and beyond sought entry into the revered institution. Hitler would have been one among many hopefuls, each believing in their unique artistic vision. His confidence in his artistic talent was based largely on his own assessment and the praise of his closest friend at the time, August Kubizek. The dream that had brought him to Vienna was on the verge of being tested. In October 1907, Adolf Hitler presented himself for the entrance examination at the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. The process was demanding. He submitted his portfolio of drawings, which mostly consisted of architectural studies and landscapes. While he was permitted to take the drawing test, the outcome was devastating. His test drawings were judged as unsatisfactory. The official record stated simply, "Test drawing unsatisfactory, not admitted." For the young man who had staked so much on this single ambition, the rejection was a profound shock. He had been so certain of his talent that the Academy's verdict seemed almost incomprehensible to him. The reasons for his rejection were, from the Academy's perspective, straightforward. His drawings, while showing some technical skill in depicting buildings, reportedly lacked originality and, crucially, an aptitude for figure drawing. The examiners noted a paucity of heads in his portfolio, indicating a weakness in rendering the human form. He was advised by one of the professors that his talents lay more in the field of architecture. He was encouraged to apply to the Academy's School of Architecture instead. This suggestion, however, presented another hurdle. Admission to the architecture school required a school-leaving certificate, or Matura, from a secondary school, which Hitler did not possess. The impact of this first rejection was significant. It punctured his inflated self-esteem and left him adrift. His friend August Kubizek recalled Hitler being deeply shaken and embittered by the experience. He felt misunderstood and unfairly judged. Instead of critically evaluating his own abilities or the Academy's feedback, he seemed to internalize the rejection as a personal affront. He did not immediately give up, however. A year later, in September 1908, Hitler tried once more to gain admission to the Academy of Fine Arts. This second rejection was even more definitive and crushing than the first. Following his second and final rejection from the Academy of Fine Arts in 1908, Hitler's life in Vienna took a downward turn. His mother, Clara, had died from breast cancer in December 1907, a loss that deeply affected him and also removed his primary source of emotional and financial support. With his artistic ambitions thwarted and his small inheritance dwindling, he began to experience genuine poverty. For several years, from late 1909 to 1913, he lived a marginal existence, drifting between menial jobs, cheap rented rooms, and eventually a homeless shelter in Meidling, and later a men's hostel. This was a stark contrast to the life of artistic acclaim he had imagined for himself. During this period, he attempted to earn a meager living by painting and selling small artworks, mostly watercolors and drawings of Viennese landmarks. He would copy scenes from postcards and sell them to tourists and frame makers. His output was modest and his income precarious. These works, many of which survive, are generally considered to be of limited artistic merit. Life in the men's hostel exposed Hitler to a diverse cross-section of Vienna's underclass. It was here that he reportedly spent much of his time reading newspapers, engaging in political discussions, and developing his nascent political ideas. The Vienna of this era was a hotbed of political agitation, with strong currents of pan-German nationalism, socialism, and virulent anti-Semitism. His existence as a failed artist in Vienna was undoubtedly a period of deep bitterness and resentment. The repeated rejections from the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts and the subsequent years of poverty were profoundly humiliating for Adolf Hitler. He had built his identity around being an artist, a man of culture destined for greatness. When this path was denied, the psychological impact was considerable. This failure fueled a deep-seated resentment against the established order. His inability to achieve recognition through art may have intensified his desire for power. Politics, with its potential for radical transformation, offered an alternative. His artistic sensibilities found a new, perverse outlet in his political career. He approached politics with theatricality, meticulously staging rallies and cultivating a powerful public image. The Nuremberg rallies were a form of dark, monumental art. His fascination with grand architecture later translated into Albert Speer's colossal building plans for Germania. Reflecting on how Hitler's life might have differed had he been accepted into the Academy of Fine Arts is a stark exercise in counterfactual history. The brush with failure in the world of art set him on a path that led to catastrophic consequences for the entire world.